Hello everyone, welcome back to the SMITE Comprehensive Guide to Odin. This is Jungle Odin. I was trying to get Solo Odin or support Fafnir, but I just wound up getting this. I wound up getting Jungle, so I just decided, hey, I'll take this opportunity to talk Jungle Odin. Now, the only thing you really need to know is the enemy Aphrodite is their support, alright? So let's talk here. Right? So you'll notice I have Gungnir's Might as my first ability, again, to take advantage of Boomba's Dagger, right? And you're going to see me hit the camp first to bunch them up, and then I throw my spear. Alright, that's very important, because this clusters them up so you can actually hit all three with the spear. With an auto attack right here, yeah. So I'm a little slower on that than I would have liked, right? But not a huge deal. I make another very small mistake here, clearing the red buff with the Morrigan. You're going to see me pulse way early. I pulse right here. Should have waited till I was closer to her to increase her attack speed as well. So that was a bit of a faux pas on my part, but not really that big of a deal. So, off we go to mid, right? And we're looking to wave clear. Now, Arachne's wave clear sucks, so her decisions right here might seem odd at first, but her wave clear is so bad that what she's trying to do is force me away from the wave, because I, as Odin, obviously have much better wave clear, right? That is what she is very specifically hoping for. So I'm trying to poke them out. Arachne is spending her concentration and her focus trying to poke us out, right? So she tries again. Right, and once she whiffs that web, I know that she's going to have a hard time keeping up with me. She's taking minion damage. I'm able to hit her with a bunch of pulses. We, of course, have the Morrigan doing a lot of damage. I jump in on this, right? Zonkwi forces me back. Fair enough. Good gameplay on him. And then I'm just, again, looking to do that poke damage. She discourages me with a really well-shot web. That was pretty nice. But she's looking to go back, and she's going to miss out on golden experience because she backs here. Which she does because, again, she's not really going to be able to fight in wave. It's Arachne's big flaw as a jungler. I, at this point, want to go for the experience camp, right? The Morrigan does not follow me. Not much of a problem here. I use my pulse, I throw the spear, she throws her wave through the wall, her dark wave, and Arachne, for some reason, decides at level 2 she can fight the two of us at level 3, which is really odd. Zonkwi also comes through the jungle, which is even more bizarre. We take care of him. Well, I think the minions finished him off, to be honest. But now we're setting up the Arachne for, you know, a death, theoretically, but she gets out, again, which is still fine, because she's still going to have to back and lose out. You can see her backing right there. She's still losing out on golden experience. Again, as I've stated in numerous other videos, this early in the game, forcing them to back is almost as good as actually killing them. Almost, right? You can see I mistimed my pulse there, but it's not really that big of a deal. We clear these really quick. And slap, 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 right? Great. Back to mid lane for some farm. I have the mana where I'm not too concerned about Zonkwi attacking me. He whiffs his demon ghost thing. I'm not sure what that's called off the top of my head. So I know I'm fine, right? He's not going to stun me for a really hyper amount of time. I'm just looking to split this wave for some nice golden experience. And, you know, at this particular point in time, I'm just looking to farm up, right? So I'm looking to go back. Boom. Grab the Hydra Star. And at this point, I'm kind of deciding, well, do I want to go over and help Mulan? Because Mulan's been having a rough time. She's down a level. She's died once, right? But first, I want to clear my buffs, right? So I'm going to clear the speed. I can see Arachne in mid, right? But she's a level down, so I'm not too worried about it. And again, she has terrible wave clears, so it's not really that much of a concern. Off to the experience camp I go, and I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing a level, you know, a 2-level difference between Mulan and Sharon. I should be going over there. I decide what I'm going to do instead is help with the damage camp, which isn't really that big of a deal. Again, a lot of the times, Odin doesn't really have a huge problem clearing out camps and stuff. Grab the Harpy. After this Harpy, I should have gone right, and I did not. Alright, that was a poor decision. Sharon was actually in a great position to gank. I don't know why I didn't go over there. I went to mid because that was the last place I saw Arachne. You can see right here she almost wins that fight, but as soon as I turn away, she loses it. I also misjump here, but I should have gone over there to the right lane to help her out, because if I'd gone over there, she probably would have survived. We could have turned that around for her, so that is my mistake right there. That was a poor decision. I absolutely should have gone over there and helped her out. I see a fight going on over there in left. I'm wondering if Arachne's going to go over there, so I start rotating over, right? Bacchus is looking to go for the Arachne. I ult her, and I kill the Aphrodite, right? But I was correct. Arachne was heading over there for a gank. Now, I mentioned in the previous episode that you really shouldn't be trying to box enemy junglers unless you have an advantage. I have a 2-level advantage here, right? She does activate her glyph in an attempt to get a benefit there, but I just bird bomb her. Just activating my Raven Shield caused her to back up. Now, at this point, I want to steal some of her jungle for the farm. I want to steal that farm as much as possible. Again, I have Boomba's Dagger, so I am going to get a certain amount of healing off of this, but here comes Aphrodite, and she is actually chasing me here. I don't want to fight her, because even though she is support, at this early stage of the game, she's still going to hit hard enough as a mage, where I'm still probably going to die to her if she hits me with a nasty bird flock. So, I'm out of here, right? I see this little interesting fight by Bacchus, but I don't really have a lot of mana, but he comes after me, so I'm just wondering where this is going, right? I see Arachne, so I'm leaving, right? Because I wasn't sure what we were going to do. I saw Marty coming in, and I'm backing up. Right, I see the Morgan coming in, probably Zonkui. Zonkui's right there. I thought he was going to come in. So I'm going to go back, and then I want to rejoin this fight, okay? So off I go. Right, here I come. I see that my team is fighting in our side of the jungle, and this is great. I mean, right off the top, the Marty grabs the Hachiman. They're also on our side of the jungle, so we have the advantage here because we're going to be closer to our towers, right? I find I can't jump over this wall with Odin, so I blink in, but unfortunately Zonkui does grab both the Morgan and Bacchus, right? I go on ahead and I ult, I attack, but I realize that the Zonkui is level 8 after all those kills, so I have to get out of here because he's much stronger than I was expecting, but then he dives the tower for me, which I'm assuming that he got that confidence from being attached to the Aphrodite, who Marty picks off right here, which is absolutely fantastic. Alright, I activated my bird bomb, and I was clearly ready to bird bomb her just in case. This is a bit of a risk because I don't know where Arachne is, but Mulan dies back here. I'll talk about that in a second. But, you know, I'm looking to just farm up and heal myself. Now, it's at this point that I decide, alright, so Charon is 3 levels higher than Mulan. Probably ganking Charon at this point isn't going to be a great thing. While I should have ganked the right lane earlier in the match, at this particular point in time, I have to make the very difficult decision to just give up on right lane. So from this point forward, mentally, I've just written off right lane, and I'm just looking to help the other 2 lanes out as much as possible, because there's nothing we can do at this point for Mulan. She's 3 levels down. Best thing we can do right now is, I'm 3 levels higher than Arachne, so I'm gonna basically gamble on myself to get really, really beefy and be able to contest Charon when the time comes. This mostly works. I'll talk about that later on in the match when it comes to it, but this mostly works. But I have written off right lane at this particular point in time. Alright, again, it is one of those difficult decisions that junglers have to make. No offense to the Mulan, but at that particular point, it's just, apparently it's a really bad matchup, which I don't think anyone really knows Charon's matchups too well, unless they've shown up in, like, pro streams or pro games. The matchups aren't really well known at this point. But Box and I, we're looking to gank the mid lane here, because Zonkui is way too far up, right? I have my ult, of course, that's going to help. The Morgan transforms into Zonkui, uses his ult, which is really great, but the Aphrodite does a great job saving him. Right, obviously he's got some form of lifesteal. He uses a really well-timed stun there, but I'm able to pick him up right afterwards, keeping everything even right there. Of course, in the meantime, Hachiman dies to the Marty. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to kill Arachne. I mistimed my jump compared to her ult, so I wasn't able to pick that up, right? Which is unfortunate. But I also know that with Arachne in that condition, they're not really going to press me. Aphrodite's just doing some ganking. You can see she hits a little hard, but not that much, right? So I wasn't too concerned about dying to her. I'm just looking to farm at this point. Again, I want to press my advantage. I want to see if I can keep pace with Charon, roughly speaking. So I'm kind of desperately looking for golden experience here. I'm going to need to go back, obviously, though, because I'm running out of mana. And that's not really a great thing for me as an Odin jungle. I do really quickly stop to grab my speed buff first, because obviously I still have the mana for that, I still have the health for that, and the Morrigan isn't in a huge amount of difficulties, right? She's alright. She's got Bacchus right there. It's not really a big deal. Go for this experience camp just for, again, the same reason. I'm just looking to clear these out and grab what I can. Now I'm going to back, right? Take a quick moment to grab this. I was going to originally drop the blue buff, but of course that's not there anymore, which is unfortunate. So now I'm going to go back because the Stygian Beacon is charging, so I'm going to want to be there for that. Grab the Crusher and grab wards. Right? So the Morrigan is getting attacked in mid, and Bacchus really should have been there for that. I'm not sure why he wasn't. She does get mad at him a little bit later on, with good reason. He really should have been there. Aphrodite was there. That was his job. He should have been there a little bit earlier. Alright, that's where she yells at him. It is justified, right? He was going for the oracles, which is my job, instead of helping her out. So she has an actual right to be upset here. She didn't need to die there. He could have saved her if he'd been there like he should have been. I was originally going to come over here because I assumed Arachne was going to gank that, but apparently she did not. Now the Milan dies here, but she actually came really close to killing Charon. You can see right there, she came really close. This is obviously a frustration. Surrender vote. We're not doing that bad, actually. We're doing fairly well, but I am not really keeping as apace with Charon as I'd like. So while I'm spectating, you know, the field here, I'm doing the speed buff, trying to figure out what I want to do next, because there's no one in mid. Nothing can be done in mid. Marty might be gankable, which I'm looking at, because Hachiman was halfway up before. I see Arachne right there, right near the Bacchus. Zonqui is in right lane for whatever reason. And I just head on over to right lane because at the very least I do expect that he'll need to rotate to mid, and he'll be alone when he does so. Right, obviously the Stygian Beacon is coming up soon, so he's going to want to be there. Bacchus, I think, had the same idea because he's been hanging around in the jungle for the past minute. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out what I'm going to do here. I saw Charon really briefly. There's Charon again in mid. This is good because this means that I can leave this lane and let Mulan farm, which is really what she needs. Hachiman goes down again. Here's Charon. Now, I don't think Charon was expecting me to be that level, but I disengaged primarily because I thought that Arachne was nearby. Remember earlier when we saw the people in mid? I thought Arachne was there, right? I get attacked by Zonqui. Now, I'm going to die, obviously, right? Once that Zonqui blinked in, I was just dead, but, you know, that happens. That's the point of blink. So, I kick the bucket, and they're going to probably get the Stygian Beacon, obviously. But that's, you know, what are you going to do about it, right? At least this is going to give Mulan some time to farm. And she does farm a little bit here, which is really good. And our team is actually doing some fighting for the Stygian Beacon, which I'm going to try to intercept. I had assumed that the enemy team would take it by this time, but apparently not. So I'm going to be looking to grab my speed buff and then run over there. But they take it, you know, even before I could have gotten there, even if I had run right over there. So I just go on ahead, and I'm going to be looking to save Mulan right here. Just because at this particular point, he's so deep that saving her is totally possible. He uses his little rowing attack, and off he goes, because obviously he wasn't going to catch up to Mulan. So I did get to save her, which is really nice. Nice low-effort save there. Arachne tries to steal the damage camp, but fails. Aphrodite, of course, is supporting her. She probably only was that aggressive because she had Aphrodite with her. Right, Marty is fighting Hachiman. I'm not really concerned about that. What I want is the golden experience from this camp here, while I try to figure out what my next move is going to be. Right, so I last saw Arachne in jungle. Here she is again. Now she's attacking me, which is fairly interesting. I go on ahead and ult her. She ults back, but I somehow get a bird bomb off on her. I think that was a bit of a delay on her part. And I back up because I know that there's people in mid. Mulan goes in, and with the Morrigan there, I actually feel pretty fine with attacking this. So I'm looking to get in here and do some fighting and see if we can pick up anything at all here. Great ult by Aphrodite. Right? Once again, Bacchus isn't left for some reason. Got some good damage on him. but unfortunately we aren't able to do anything else with that. But we do take the left tower, which is really nice. I call the retreat to mid because there's really no point in fighting there anymore. There was nothing else we were going to get accomplished. The Morgan obviously needs to stay there to get her farm, and I grab the oracles just so I can keep an eye on the Gold Fury really quick, and then I want to grab this speed buff before I back to go grab my Heartseeker. And this is where I make my first building mistake. Given that they have 3 people who heal, Aphrodite, Zonqui heals himself, and Arachne heals herself, I really should have gone for the Brawler's Speedstick. There's actually going to be 2 fights in which me not having Brawler's Speedstick earlier does hurt my allies. Not me so much, although obviously I do get affected, but primarily my allies. Now this is an interesting and great opportunity to gank. Yes, he's level 16, which makes him 5 levels higher than anything else, but he's also got almost no mana, and he's right at the tower line here. So this is actually a really great opportunity for me to gank him, which I wouldn't normally have, but he's gotten very arrogant due to his really high level. Unfortunately, the Arachne comes in and kills Mulan. So at this particular point, I'm just trying to buy time. I see that the Aphrodite is coming over, and I know this, right? I do see her, so I back up, right? Obviously, they're really going deep for this, but I am going to be able to make it out. You can hear Zonqui wasting his ult in the background. Obviously, the tower is pretty much a lost cause. I call out that Zonqui's ult is down because that's fairly significant. I must confess that my team does do a great job. They see how many people are in right lane, and they do the right thing. The Morgan presses mid-tower, Duo gets Gold Fury. That is some great decision-making for my team. Because the enemy team, despite having killed Mulan and forced me out, they steal some buffs. We got Gold Fury. It's not really a comparable trade. We got much more out of that. The Zonqui might laugh and all, but that's probably because he realizes just as much as I do that we as a team, my team, got more out of that than they did, right? They won that little spat for functionally nothing. They got some damage on the tower and some buffs. We got Gold Fury. Great, right? So, at this particular point in time, I am really only over here because I want to see if I can slap... Well, originally I was going to slap down Hachiman, but let's be really honest at this point. Marty doesn't need the help. I see Charon in mid, and I want to try to take him out because he's really getting out of hand, right? So I'm going to be heading towards this mid fight here. We do have some people in here that may be able to pull something off. I have my ult. I use my ult. He ults. I waste my Gungnir's Might as a result, though, because I timed that wrong. And we're just really fighting for this tower at this point is kind of what we're going for here. I successfully take out that Bastion. And then I'm trying to figure out, are we still attacking? I don't want to fight this. I'm looking to leave. Alright? Because this is no longer a fight to our advantage. So, you know, we got the Bastions at the very least. It was a big nothing of a fight. But you can see where the Charon is healing a lot of HP thanks to the Aphrodite, who I'm trying to focus out here, but she's out healing me without my ult. Which is obviously a problem, right? She, you know, keeps me out of that fight a little bit. As Zonqui sacrifices himself for not really that much. Bacchus dies, which is a bit of a problem because he's our support, obviously, but it's, you know, overcomeable. I was originally going to chase Charon, but really, obviously, with Aphrodite there, that is not going to happen, so I'm looking to get out of dodge because this is clearly not going to happen. He is looking to dive me, and I'm down for the fight, right? I'm under tower, and I have a shield here. I almost die here. The Mulan shows up just in time to save me. And fortunately, the Morgan was able to pick up the Aphrodite in the background. But I'm just glad that I didn't die to Charon and give him even more. Even more. But I really, again, just to reemphasize, in this situation, Brawler's Beatstick should have been the 4th item, and Heartseeker should have been my 5th. I built Heartseeker a little too early here. Alright? Now, I am building Heartseeker because Zonqui is a little tankier than the average mage, so it will be really helpful to have that ability damage, that bonus damage on my abilities for that. Obviously, of course, Marty gets killed. There is a fight in left. Mulan's heading over there because Mulan really needs the experience. She really needs Charon to die. She successfully shuts him down, which is a huge... She got 2 level ups out of that by itself, which is great for her. It was a great comeback. She really needed it. Now we just got to slap my boy here. And there he goes. Mulan picks that up, which is great. And I'm looking to chase the Arachne, because of course I'm 2 levels higher. I've got allies right here. She doesn't really have an escape. I'm assuming her ult had to have been down, otherwise she would have used that. And at this point, I'm just looking to get something else out of here. Mulan fights Zhong Kui. Aphrodite uses the Yang for some unholy reason. I'm not really sure why she bothered. I don't know why Bacchus isn't coming over and helping us here for this fight. He really should be. It's not really his responsibility to clear waves, so I'm not really sure what his thought process was there. I grabbed the Manticore spikes. There he is. He does show up. A little late to the party, but better late than never. Right? I'm trying to kill the Aphrodite at this point, because obviously Zhong Kui is doomed. There she goes. And now all that's left really is this Charon. And I'm clearing this wave. I really should have immediately gone... I do exactly what Bacchus was doing. I cleared this wave. I really should have gone right back into the fight to help out with Charon. I call a gank here, but unfortunately the enemy team really comes back in force. I whiff my bird bomb, and Arachne really wipes out, you know, the rest of my allies, and I die here. Somebody, I think it was the Bacchus, points out that we stayed far too long in that fight. Once the Charon rejoined the fight, yeah, it was actually Marty who said that, which is completely accurate. We were in there far too long. We should have left a little while ago. Correct observation by Marty. When the Charon returned to the fight, we really should have left, because the Charon was the strongest person on their team and was coming back at full health and mana, so we really should have backed out at that point. Mulan is looking to try to get the Stygian Tower. It's not looking like she's likely to do so, because Aphrodite, the enemy support, is there, and the Morrigan is not showing up to help. Right, I'm going to be, you know, moving on my way. Marty does ping the Morrigan to try to let her know, hey, you know, go to mid lane. She's also taking a lot of my farm, which doesn't matter right now. Again, I'm going for the speed buff so I can run to the scene a little bit faster. It pays for itself slightly. And, you know, by the time I'm going to get there, it's going to be too late. Fortunately, Marty is able to force them out. And I blink in, because what I want to do is try to cut off avenues of attack, right? I use my ult. Mulan pulls her out of my ult, which I didn't know she could do, so fair play to her. Bacchus is, for some reason, chasing Hachiman in left lane. He does successfully kill him, but why he was there in the first place, I don't quite understand. Right, so I'm just looking to clear these jungle camps for health and mana back before I start fighting the Gold Fury. We get ulted by Charon, which is fine. I don't even know where the hell he is, but he's not close. You're right, he's not close enough. He's not going to be close enough because he is the, you know, solo lane. Bacchus goes on him. We've got Arachne behind. I activate my shield, and I die, but I die for the Gold Fury, right? We do get the Gold Fury, which is really important. So it was at least a worthwhile death. It wasn't, like, in vain or anything. We did get it, because Charon was, to some extent, trying to kill me, which is fine. You know, watching the little fight here. Looking at Marty's build. I'll talk about Marty's build in a little bit, but he doesn't have really the penetration to win this fight. In the Charon has quite the interesting build. It's a build I've talked about with my cousin a couple of days ago that this Charon is proving works out really well. I'll talk about that one day when I talk a little bit more detail about Charon. I'll probably give you the summarized version at the end of the match. But anyways, we did get the Gold Fury, but we lost the fight. So, kind of an interesting trade-off. Not really a huge deal, in all honesty. I mean, we can recover. It's not, like, crippling. Right? Again, I'm going for this speed buff. Zhong Kui and Aphrodite are in left, and they're way far left, and the Morrigan is there, so I'm looking to take advantage of the situation as well. I'm kind of assuming Arachne's on her way over, because why wouldn't she? But instead, here's Hachiman. So, you know, here comes Bacchus. And I'm looking to, obviously, slap down some people. I get a great ult on all three of them. And the Morrigan kills pretty much everyone there with an absolutely amazing use of Zhong Kui's ult. Bacchus calls for the Fire Giant really specifically. I need healing first, so I stop by to clear some buffs on the way there, because otherwise I'm not going to have the health for that, right? So, I'm just, you know, going off with them, obviously. I grabbed this Harpy really quick. I probably should have stopped for the damage buff, but they were actually starting the Fire Giant. So in I go. I increased Marty's attack speed with my pulse, and we're just wailing on this and praying desperately. Right, because there's still 3 of them alive. One of them is Charon, who is already level 20. Right, and in fact, there he is right there. But fortunately, he doesn't get it, and they get really weakened by that as well. Marty does a really great job doing damage to him. Slaps him down. Fantastic job. Yes, we lost Mulan again, but Mulan isn't as high as you would expect, so Arachne killing her is not that big of a deal. Get a great Gungnir on her. Slap her with the Hydra's Lament shield combo. Absolutely fantastic time. And at this particular point, you know, they're going for the Pyromancer. Here's Zhong Kui attacking them. I'm looking to get around behind because I have my ult. And boom. Now, I ulted there specifically because I wanted to keep the Aphrodite out of the ring. I wanted to make sure he couldn't heal and that Aphrodite wasn't going to enter that ring to save him. So I'm just trying to clear this Pyromancer, but obviously I don't have the chutzpah to do so. I'm just looking to go back, because right now they have Hachiman and Aphrodite. There's really no point to fighting them right now. Yes, we could theoretically get the Pyromancer, but is it worth that risk? Not really. Right, at this particular point, I'm trying to figure out what I want to build. I accidentally misclick, and I'm like, wait a minute. So I'm trying to decide, do I want Dawnbringer? Do I need the extra protections? Or do I want Runeforged? But I'm working towards... I wind up picking Runeforged, by the way, just ahead of time. I do decide on Runeforged because it is a little bit more helpful. I am doing a lot of damage, of course. I buy first, though, Boomba's Spear so I can get that power boost, you know, beforehand. That's going to help me a little bit more than the... an extra step towards the Runeforged Hammer. I can get that later on, right? So, I'm looking to try to figure out what I want to do. They weren't on Pyro, which I was kind of expecting them to be. Gold Fury is coming up, so they're obviously looking for that, right? We're looking for the Oracles. This is a great ganking opportunity. I ult. Bacchus is here. We've got Mulan here. Good old Charon ults. And of course, Arachne is trying to kill Mulan. She ults out. Out being a loose term. And, you know, we're just trying to find a pick. It's a matter at this point, whoever, you know, kills the first person wins this next fight, right? So I'm trying to take out the Aphrodite because that's obviously going to help them out. And I'm just trying to figure out where, you know, the particularly vulnerable people are. I grab, almost by accident, the Zhong Kui, slap down the Aphrodite and the Hachiman. I thought it was the Arachne I was going after. Apparently that was Hachiman. And we just, well, mostly Marty blasts Charon into it next week. And then we get to grab a delicious Gold Fury while we're right here. So we immediately turn this win, and then somebody pings mid, which is great. A better call than left. Now, a lot of people would go for left first. I make a mistake, by the way. I spent too long in the air, but it's not a huge deal. There's my Runeforge, but calling the mid was better because there were our minions going up to the mid lane, so this was going to be the easier one to get, right? I mean, honestly, Mulan didn't need to tank it, to be completely honest. She does a great job tanking it, but she didn't need to. And they, you know, push that minion wave under. I'm trying to tell them to retreat. The Morgan is right there with me telling them to retreat. They're not going to win this fight because the enemy team is all coming out fresh, and at this particular point they surrendered. Now, I'm going to talk about the builds, obviously, but... And I'll be doing another Odin match because this wasn't a full match, obviously. I think they still had a chance to recover, so I would like to get a better Odin jungle match to talk about, but this is a really great demonstration of the finer... Not the finer points of Odin jungle, because I really didn't capture that. The sort of the strength you can bring to bear for the... for the Jungle Odin. Jungle Odin brings a lot of damage here, right? He brings a lot of damage to the jungle role. Again, my major building mistake was waiting so long to build Brawler's Beatstick, considering they had Aphrodite, considering Arachne heals herself, considering Zhong Kui heals himself. I really should have built Brawler's Beatstick a little bit earlier. It should have been my fourth item given the circumstances, and then go Heartseeker. So that was a build mistake on my part, and again, there was that right lane gank that I could have taken advantage of that I did not, and I should have in retrospect. The Mulan would have had a much easier game. We actually might have even been able to win before they surrendered. Well, that's a bit of an exaggeration. We would have been able to do a little bit better in the mid game if I had gone over there and ganked that. I had no reason to go to mid lane, but I went to mid lane anyways. That was a poor decision on my part right there. But the Charon, this Tablet of Destinies is absolutely amazing on Charon, or any solo laner, because that's going to be true damage based on a percentage of your mana, so it's always going to be hitting really hard, and that was really exemplified when he was fighting that Marty Cortis in left lane after that mid-game large team fight, right? That was really where that was demonstrated. But my cousin is really fond of Soul Reaver instead. I think really depends on the tankiness. We didn't have a hugely tanky comp, so I can see where he went in Tablet of Destiny. Soul Reaver would have been also very effective against our team comp overall, I would say. But other than that, we have some fairly standard builds, although I will point out that if Aphrodite intended to build the... Now I've forgotten this particular cloak that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head. This should have been her second item, and Rod of Asclepius should have been her third if this was going to be the case. I think she waited a little bit too long to build this. She wasn't building the stacks as quickly as she could have been, so I will say that she really should have gone second item cloak on this particular build. Otherwise, she's fine. Just swap these two. That would have been better for her. Of course, the old Gladiator Shield. Now, the Hachiman has built Griffin Wing Earrings, and Griffin Wing Earrings I've talked about quite a bit. Whether or not they're useful to hunters really depends on two things. The auto attacks of the hunter and your ability to hit shots. Alright? For example, Izanami really loves Griffin Wing Earrings because they allow her to more consistently hit her auto attacks, because her auto attacks, of course, go forward and then come back. They boomerang back to her. Well, Griffin Wing Earrings, increasing the speed at which her projectiles moves, makes the rebound a more consistent hit. For Hachiman, the only reason you want Griffin Wing Earrings is pretty specifically either for the MP5, which is why they're fairly popular for Assault, but for Hachiman, you only really want these if you want to more reliably hit your long-range shots, because if you didn't know, Hachiman's first ability gives him 4 arrows with like 50% more than the average range. However, these shots also obviously need more lead time if your opponent is strafing you. Griffin Wing Earrings help with this, and they of course give you some power and some attack speed, but they're not going to shape up to an item that's a little bit more aggressive. It's not going to shape up to, say, Atlantis Bow, which is going to give you increased attack speed whenever you get a killer assist. It's not going to shape up to, say, Aussie, which is going to give you lifesteal when you're low on health. There are better items for this, and this is one of the reasons he had such a hard time. He also doesn't really need the MP5, because, obviously, he has natural MP5 restoration from his passive. Every time he hits an auto attack or uses, I believe it's also when he uses an ability, he gets a stack of MP5. He doesn't really need the MP5 out of this, and these only are really largely helping him hit those longer range shots, and again, there are better items for that. This is mostly due to the Hachiman just having a hard time hitting those ranged shots, and this is helping, basically. Odysseus' bow is great on Hachiman, I will say, because those long-range shots can cause you to activate that from a significant distance, which allows you to more safely poke either enemy minions or enemy gods. Great little item on Hachiman. Love this on Hachiman. The Arachne, interestingly enough, built Heavy Executioner. Not really sure why. That's not really something you want on her. She does much better with Ferocious Executioner, because she has such a huge attack speed boost with her second ability. It's like a 7% increase, a 70% increase or something ridiculous like that. That this is really hard capping her attack speed in a really hurtful way. So it turned in. Personally, it's probably a good thing they surrendered, because while the Charon was doing really well, He wasn't doing well enough to compensate for the Arachne's very questionable grabbing of specifically the heavy glyph for the Executioner, and for Hachiman's grabbing of the Griffin Wing earrings, which is more about the Hachiman not knowing how to hit the long-range shots than anything else, I suspect. Yes, you could have built this for the attack speed and the power, but again, there are better items for that give you better passives, give you similar attack speed, similar power, or some other benefit. For example, while Aussie doesn't give you quite as much power, it gives you 15 less, and it gives you, I think, 5 or 10% less attack speed, it gives you a lot more lifesteal, as an example. So, yeah, I can see why this was a surrender here. But, you know, the Mulan, I would have to say her mistake was grabbing Tainted Steel. She might have assumed, and I'll say this is a mistake, but I want to put a really big asterisk on this. She might have assumed that her landing opponent was going to be Aphrodite. Because I've seen that before, I'm sure she has seen that before. It's not that unusual, it's not great. I discourage people from playing Aphrodite in the solo lane. She can succeed there, but it's not her ideal role, in my opinion. But, anyways, I have seen her there, and I'm sure so have other people, so she might have assumed that this was going to be a solo lane Aphrodite, and Charon was going to be support, and so she was really thrown off by the sudden appearance of Charon, so I'm really not going to be really hard on this Tainted Steel, because if she was assuming Aphrodite was going to be her landing opponent, then Tainted Steel was 100% the move, right? Absolutely, hands down, no problem. This would have been dominating if her landing opponent had been Aphrodite, so maybe she guessed. This has all of the hallmarks of guessing your opponent wrong, really. Other than that, there's not really... some people might be surprised by the Chronos Pendant on Bacchus, but for Bacchus, with his extreme levels of mana consumption, thanks to needing to be able to swig all the time, and the really great passive for this really working out in his favor and allowing him to do a little bit more than the average amount of damage as a Guardian, this is actually a more common pickup on Bacchus than you would expect. I'm not really sure why he's got Breastplate of Regrowth here. This is his place. Yeah, it is, I believe. But yeah, this is... He doesn't heal himself, unless they changed that really recently, and I just didn't know, but I didn't say anything about Bacchus being able to self-heal, so... But, outside of that, pretty standard builds. Nothing too out of the ordinary here. But, yeah, with that being said, thank you all very much for joining me. If you liked this, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, please ignore me. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, suggestions, or requests, please leave them down in the comment section below. And thank you all very much for joining me, and have a great 24 hours.